Welcome again to It Doesn't Take a Genius, conversation with introspective perspectives and pithy points of view. Here are your hosts, my friends, Max and Marty.
I think that's Mark and Mike.
Yeah, whatever.
Ramsey!
Marshall, so great to see you. Both of us wearing the same shirts for a marathon of episodes that we've just recorded.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, yes, we're on a roll now. I think they're flowing, and this one is right before our 2-year anniversary episode, episode 104 asterisk. So we're very excited about that. So we're our Half a Culture series. I think we're on to one that's very important here.
We are, and we should to make this make sense, we should just quickly recap what we're talking about, everything we've talked about, because it's what we're talking about today as sort of a period at the end of the sentence. The idea of, do you have a culture or just half a culture, just a cult, was about not just results, but also relationships, that all of that together, in fact, the relationships lead to the results. So we had 4 principles that we've been discussing. The first one, culture trickles downhill, starts with manager, starts with the leader, setting tone and expectations on what he or she wants in their organization, what the expectations are, how we do things around here. That flows right into clarity is kindness. Wait a minute, I skipped one, didn't I? I just went out of order. Did I go out of order? Yeah, start with a why. That's right. I was like, that doesn't sound right. Start with the why. You have to start there. That's the whole point. So you want to trickle down this culture from yourself. It trickles downhill. And the best way to do that is to start with the why and explain the importance to the organization of why it's important to the customer, to frankly, to the universe, but to yourselves as well. Then you can provide some clarity. Clarity is kindness. Even in difficult conversations, not just setting roles and expectations, but sometimes having to have, as we discussed last time, I call them wrestling matches. Brene Brown has a different term, but the idea of having some tough conversations that are kind. They need to happen. They're the best thing for the organization, and they're kind, but they're hard because you may have to get uncomfortable with it. So now, to finalize all of that, we have one last little nugget in our series here, which is accountability is a two-way street. Accountability is a two-way street.
Well, see, if I'm a leader and I'm listening right now, this sounds like a lot of work, and I could be the problem.
Right.
Yeah, this feels uncomfortable already.
Well, there does seem to be something about the fact that you can only work on what's under your control, and you may have noticed that your people are not under your control. You can influence them, but they're not under your control. So there is some truth to that. Mm-hmm. And it does circle all the way back around to the idea of culture trickles downhill, right? Like you're doing some trickling here. So this is a little bit of a cyclical thing. But it's definitely like the last thing we want to talk about as we leave you with the nuggets for this series is just the idea that we really are the ones that hold people accountable as managers, and we need to be accountable to be a manager.
Yeah, but it's so much more fun to hold other people accountable.
Isn't it though?
Yeah, that's where the joy, why did I get this leadership position? For nothing else, is I need to what do they say, crack the whip, make them toe the line.
Boss these people around. I mean,
step lively. I'm gonna be holding some accountability sessions right here. Now, right. Now what I think I hear you talking about is that I have to do it. Oh yeah, that feels Well, I have to do it, before I can even think about encouraging them to do so.
Yeah, and let's talk about that. I'll give a very specific example of how this came up in a management team meeting. But we were talking about coaching. Now, this is great, coaching. We even use Mike Marshall's worksheet, the respect-based performance coaching method. And we were talking about, this is a great way to hold people accountable because they write things down. They make commitments. But if you read the whole sheet, the manager's committing too, because the manager is going to say, what resources, what help do you need from me? So there's something you're on the hook for. If there's anything that the person you're coaching comes up with, like, you got to provide that or explain why you can't provide it. And then at the end, it says, we're going to meet again on such and such a date at such and such a time. Well, you're kind of on the hook for that too, because you need to make sure that meeting happens. You need to clear off space on your calendar, go hunt down the employee, prepare them ahead of time. Hey, it's time to, check back in and see how things are going and see what else you need from me and what else you want to commit to. That's a commitment.
And we so, as leaders, we so want to be able to have the great talk and then launch them.
Yeah. All right. Mission accomplished.
Yeah. Man, I coached him up.
Right.
And now I'll move on and work on something else.
Right.
And yes, you so accurately stated, and even in the 7 coaching questions that we've talked about before, there's this dreadful question of, how can I help?
Yeah.
And if they share something with you, then I must be valiant in my attempt. Maybe it's something I can't do, but sometimes it's just very easy stuff where the person that you're coaching says, listen, if you see me get off track, if you could just pull me aside and remind me, that would be helpful. I want to do this.
Yeah.
And that would help me to stay on the path. And so if you say yes to that, then you have to hold yourself accountable to do that.
That's right.
Whether you're busy or stressed or, there's a million other responsibilities. If I can't stay true to my commitment, what in the world makes me think that they can stay true to their commitment?
100%. And the idea that, this is hard is accurate. I mean, this is simple, but it's not easy to get yourself into some sort of habit, because that's really what this is going to boil down to. If you've made a commitment to provide help in some way, check in with me regularly, or if you notice me doing XYZ, give me a reminder. Well, you're going to have to get yourself into the habit of doing that. If it's a regular coaching session, which leaders should be doing, leaders should regularly coach. Well, you're going to have to regularly get into that habit. The 7 coaching questions comes from a book called The Coaching Habit, right? And the whole point is that these are behaviors that become muscle memory to you. Well, here's an old coaching trick. One of the questions that we ask to wrap up a discussion is, what structure do you need to put this plan into place? So, that's something that our leaders who are listening can ask themselves is, what kind of a structure do I need to put in place around me to get into this new habit? Is it a Post-it note on the monitor? Is it a reminder that goes off on my phone? Is it something I stick in my pocket, or I put my, watch on the other wrist, or whatever it is? There's got to be maybe a physical reminder at first, but something that prompts you to stay on this path. It might be asking somebody else to hold you accountable. Check in with me at the end of the week and ask me if I've had my coaching sessions. That could be the check that you need.
Oh, definitely.
All of that's because this is hard to do.
Well, and I love the idea of the physical reminder. We did that with one of our stores. What the goal was that before the managers would start their day, they'd help the salespeople jumpstart their day. And so, but the current model was managers would come in, they would turn on their computers, they'd start working on stuff. And then lo and behold, they'd look up and it would be 11 o'clock. And we hadn't met with the sales team and that type of thing. So we took the power cord from a computer and we bundled it up and zip tied it. And that became the if we have to go in and unplug every manager's computer every morning and take your power cord so that you can't turn on your computer until you keep your commitment to help your team members get their day started, then that's what we'll do.
Oh, that's hilarious.
Sent that powerful physical message that you don't start working on your stuff until you help them get started with their stuff.
And the next morning, all the managers woke up with a horse's head in their bed. It was really weird.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Somehow happened.
That was phase 2 of our accountability process. So, but yeah, because it's one of those things, right? Where you stand up, you tell the team, we're going to have a morning huddle every day. We're going to start off 15-minute huddle. We're going to, and it lasts 2 days.
Yep.
and then the number one thing that we hear, or number one or two thing that we hear from the people that we lead, that we coach, that are leaders, is my team is inconsistent. They're not, we want to be brilliant at the basics.
Right.
We want to execute consistently. Every day feels like it's a brand new day, and we just make it up as we go along, and we need to stop that. And then they announce, okay, we're going to have regular training, weekly training meetings.
Yep.
And we have one, and then 3 months go by and there's no more training meetings. And so we're doing exactly, our team is just emulating us to the T. And one thing I always tell managers is, the good news is your team is always watching you. The bad news is your team is always watching you.
Yep.
And so when you make these declarations of, here's this basic behavior that executed consistently will make us successful, and you can't do it, it's really hard to get mad at them for not executing the basics consistently that would make them successful.
Yeah. Could I speak directly to my clients who are listening to this podcast, Mike?
Oh, please do. Let me step aside.
Ladies, gentlemen, I just need to confess to you that sometimes, and this is advice for anybody, but sometimes your coach gets really excited about what you're excited about. And shame on me if I don't go back and say, hey, remember the thing we were excited about last month? What happened with that? Mm-hmm. It's so easy to move on to the next shiny penny, the flavor of the month, and to not just stick with that block and tackling thing that you came up with at the beginning of the year, to say, you know what? All this extra stuff, it's great, but that one thing we said we were going to do, man, if we actually changed our behavior there, it would be a game changer. That's why we were excited about it a year ago. Let's get back to that main thing. That's the main thing. So I guess a message for anybody who has a coach, a consultant that comes in, don't let us collude with you. Mm-hmm. If you're getting excited about a new thing, but you haven't implemented the old thing, there better be a darn good reason. And your coach ought to be asking you about that and challenging you about that. That is part and parcel of accountability being a two-way street. Be accountable to your coach.
Oh yeah. Yeah. No. And I tell my clients, I say, all right, you need to be very careful, because if you choose something and you say, this is what I want to work on, this is what I'm going to talk to you about.
Yeah.
And you're going to become miserable. This is truly not the most important thing we should be working on, because I'm going to keep bringing it up.
Yeah.
And I have to admit, right, there are times where, the enthusiasm, the bright, shiny object, the newest, latest, coolest thing kind of drags you, off topic. But it's the goal is to stay on that. And sometimes it's only folks like us who come in with who are not there for the day-to-day external shiny stuff, that's attracting their attention, to be able to say, hey, how's this long-term thing that we know that, it's not a short-term fix, but it's a long-term thing. If we get better at it, we know that it'll impact our organization, not just for a day, a month, or a quarter, but for years to come.
I love that. That's pretty much the episode, isn't it? I mean, it's there's got to be something in your system that is allowing you to stay true to your commitments, physical reminders, the coach, the paper that you sign with your employee. It might even be, we've talked a little bit about the DISC assessment. It might be that D, but probably the C on your team, who can say, why are we doing this? And make that commitment really clear, and make any deviation from the commitment really clear. That's all good stuff for a manager who's really serious about building a full-blown culture that has both the relationships and the results. We could have talked about modeling behaviors. We could have talked about keeping your promises. That's all mixed in here. But I think that's the big one is you're accountable to being a manager. You're accountable to being that leader. I don't know, Mike, anything else you want to add to that?
No, I think if your team is struggling with something, then it behooves you to take a look inward and say, okay, as the leader, what part did I play in this dysfunction, right? This lack of execution, whatever it might be. And lo and behold, we may discover inadvertently that, they're not doing what we say, they're just doing what we do. And we've modeled for them the manner in which we do it. I think the other thing to think about is just be so very careful before you make a pronouncement of something that you're going to do. And if you're prone to the bright shiny objects, the ADD or whatever it might be, then make those commitments carefully, knowing that everybody's watching to see if you truly believe in it, or you'll get that meeting after the meeting where you announce this is the next cool thing, and then the meeting after the meeting, all right, the bystanders on your team gather everybody else around and say, all right, if we just lay low, this too will pass. He'll forget about it in 3 weeks. Don't sweat it.
Right.
Not going to have to do that.
Right.
And you'll be amazed at what doesn't happen, from your great ideas. So be very cautious in your pronouncements and be very deliberate in the execution of those pronouncements.
Whatever you're committing to will trickle downhill. That's circling us all the way back around. That's the point.
Definitely. So very excited that we're coming up on our 2-year anniversary. Extra special episode coming up. We have, only for the second time in the history of It Doesn't Take a Genius,
correct,
guest speaker. So somebody who actually got a chance to work with and truly get to know one of the greatest coaches to ever walk the planet. So we're going to get some firsthand perspective there, some stories. You don't want to miss that one.
Good stuff. So we are excited that you're with us, dear listeners, both of you. And we look forward to celebrating our 2 years with you next week, right? Yeah, next week. I think we planned that out. I mean, not next week like this week that we're recording, Mike, but like by the time they listen to this episode, next week.
I wasn't listening to you. I was wondering if there was going to be cake. I was just trying to picture. It's an anniversary. There must be cake. There must be some sort of snack or something.
I'll add a graphic or something.
Okay, that would be fantastic. All right. I got distracted. Speaking of somebody who's completely focused,
that's right,
on sarcasm and making fun of us, turn our attention to our announcer, the wonderful Mr. John.
Sounds great.
And that's it. Join us next time when you'll hear Mike say, well, I'm sure he'll say something pithy. Don't miss it. Next time, It Doesn't Take a Genius.
That's good enough.